Okay, now what I've done is I've cut a piece of ribbon 75 centimetres long, and if you look here, this is about 38 millimetres, 40 millimetres wide. Don't use it too thin, otherwise you won't be able to get a nice poofy effect. This ribbon is also single-sided because it's better to make this rose than if you use a thicker one. It doesn't sit quite as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this first piece of ribbon over with the wrong side there, and I've put a pin in, because what we're aiming to do is create a bias with this ribbon. So as long as you do that with the first one, you've already started your bias and you should be okay. You will need a couple of other pins, but don't worry, you don't need too many. Right, now then, so if I hold those two together like that and just put a pin in to help me along for the first couple, you will see what I'm doing. And by the way, I hope you like my pin cushion, because I made it, and before long you may well have a video tutorial on making one of these. And if you keep on like this, you see the bias is now starting, and that's what gives you those lovely poofy effects. So you can keep on going if you like, or you can add them as you go along. It's entirely up to you. No idea what that is. Right, so once you've got a few in place, you make sure that your ribbon has, it doesn't get caught up in the scissors, you make sure that your ribbon has a really good knot on the end, because you're going to be pulling on this, and I knot it several times to make sure the knot is good and tight. Okay, so where are we going to start? Right, remember there? So we're going to start just where the two pieces meet, and basically all we're going to do is a running stitch. Nothing complicated. The only fiddle is making sure that the two pieces actually meet. And I can tell you, it's one heck of a sight easier doing this when you haven't got the camera between your nose and the ribbon. But you're just doing a straight line stitch. There's nothing complicated about it at all. Now, doing it like this means that you aren't going to catch the other side. You certainly don't want to do that. All you want to do is catch those two bits of ribbon together, enough for you to be able to pull when you get to the end. Flip it over every so often to make sure that you have caught the both sides, and when you get to this point and you think, oh, I've run out of pins, then you just put a few more in. And you keep on going. Right, so that's what you're aiming for, this sort of twisted effect, because you're creating, as I said, a biased tube. So we'll be back. I'll get to the end, because I'm not going to bore you with sewing all of this. I'll get to the end and then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, finally I'm at the end. Let's move this ruler out of the way. So what you now need to do is you're going to do some gentle pulling. Alright, don't yank too much. The tube is carried on. I haven't done any more pinning, I just kept on going round. Can you see the way it sort of twists That's what you're aiming for. So we're going to do some gentle pulling to gather up our tube. And this is what you're going to end up with, something along these lines, okay? And that's about right. Now, you can, if you like, anchor it at this point, and it's probably better if you do anchor it. Leave yourself a little bit of a tail down there because you're going to start twisting this around in a minute. So it's easier if you do anchor. So you've gone from 75 centimetres to approximately, approximately 27-30. Okay, so from 75 down to 30, and that'll give you about the right size. So if we anchor it there by just putting a couple of stop stitches in, that's all you need. Okay, and then push that back to there and get it nice and even along the whole thing. All right, don't worry about the purl, that'll go in afterwards. Right, what we're going to do now then is we're going to start to twist, and we're going to put a couple of stitches in every so often along this twist. So you need to come a bit further down. Okay, it's not going to stay in place on its own. You're going to have to sew it. So let's put a couple of stitches in here. Any other way you want to do your stitches is up to you. Now then, the next thing you have to remember is that you can't just keep on going like that. You're going to have to turn it so that the line of stitches is at the bottom. Okay, so let's take that and stitch it into there. And then this carry on around and stitch the next bit into there, keeping that in the centre now. Carry on around and stitch the next bit. Now you can see what we've got now. We've got the first layer, so when you do the next layer you're going to stitch it into the first layer and so on, and when you come to the third layer you're going to be stitching it into the second, otherwise your rows won't spread out. Now if you think there's I saw a gap there, so I'm going to go back in and do another stitch there. Right, so if I turn it round, you're starting to see this developing. And if I show you I'm not stitching it at the moment, but I'm giving you an idea of what's going to be happening. Right, so can you see the rows emerging? Now this is why I said you don't pull it too tight and get it sort of fairly even along. So before I stitch the rest of it, I'm going to be moving some of this along here, otherwise it's going to be too tight at one end and not gathered enough at the other. Alright, so 2 seconds and I'll be sewing this together, and then we'll come back and finish it off with the purl. Okay, just to show you that on the sewing I'm about halfway round by now, and with about half the ribbon you get a flower which is about 4.5 centimetres, 5 centimetres. So, but I wanted a fairly large one this time. So that's why I did 75 centimetres of ribbon to start off with. And I am finding that as I go along, I push it up a little bit so that we don't end up with too much down there. So we gather quite nicely in here as we're sewing. Okay. There and there, and I'll see you at the end. Okay, we're almost there now. I've got a pearl here. This is an 8mm pearl. You can use a larger one if you like, and that's going to sit in there in a minute. First of all though, we've got to tidy all this up, and we do it quite easily by just folding and sewing, folding over and sewing on. Alright, so we'll get that one folded there, and this one we will fold here, and if you tuck that under there you won't see any of the stitching. Okay, and you're just going to tack this in place with a few stitches to hold it, and hopefully it's the back of your work. Nobody's going to see it anyway, especially if you sew it onto a dress. But what you don't want is any stray edges coming out after, and it covers all your stitches at the back anyway. And I would say, whoops, that's fine. Okay, so that's a fairly tidy back. Right, now then, go in there and come up just about, you feel it with the needle, come up there in the centre and take your pearl, go through and then go back in. Making sure your cotton isn't twisted. Position your pearl. Yeah, make sure your cotton isn't twisted, otherwise it won't sit in properly. There we are. Position your pearl, and then another couple of stitches coming in from the back to the front. You don't need many to hold the pearl in. Come up in the right place is better, but if you do that, if you do what I've just done, doesn't just go in from there. And then go back in. And tie your knot off at the back. Okay, and then if I show you what size we've got. Got one about 5.5 centimetres. What was this one? This one was 6. I think the reason why this one was 6, I used a slightly larger ribbon, but a slightly wider ribbon, but this one is fuller and tighter than this one, and this is the effect you'll get if you use, I think it was a 50mm ribbon on this one, and this one's, as you saw, I measured it at the start, 40, and there we are. Basically you're ready now to sew them onto your dresses or any embellishments that you want to. And thanks for watching. See you in the next one.